She handed me divorce papers at her agency's grand opening, surrounded by cameras and champagne. I signed without a word. Then I pulled $25 million. By midnight, she had 338 missed calls, and her empire was collapsing. She never knew I built it all. My name is Stephen Hartley. I'm 47 years old, and for the last 2 decades, I've managed a hedge fund that most people have never heard of, but that's exactly how we like it. Quiet money. The kind that doesn't make headlines, but builds empires in the shadows. I learned early in my career that the loudest voice in the room is rarely the smartest, and the flashiest investor usually goes broke first. So I built my reputation on being the guy who shows up, does the work, and leaves before anyone notices. Diana was the opposite. She thrived in the spotlight. When we met at a charity gala in Chicago back in 2002, she was already making waves in the marketing world, pitching bold campaigns, and landing clients twice her age. She had this energy that filled every room she entered, and I love that about her. I thought we balanced each other. She brought the fire. I brought the foundation. Turns out, I was just the foundation. The part nobody sees. The part nobody thanks. We had 3 kids. Jordan, our oldest, just turned 24. He works as a brand strategist, surprise, surprise, at his mother's firm. Then there's Peyton, 20 years old, a college junior who spends more time writing blog posts about feminist theory than she does studying. And Liam, 17, our quiet one. The kid barely talks, just plays his guitar in the basement, and avoids family dinners like they're a disease. I funded Diana's agency, not as some grand gesture, but because she asked, and I believed in her. She wanted independence, wanted to build something that was hers. Fair enough. So I set up a funding structure through one of my holding companies, Apex Strategies LLC, and funneled capital into her dream. Clean, quiet, invisible. She got to be the visionary founder, and I got to be the supportive husband. Except somewhere along the way, she forgot who paid for the blueprints. The agency, Hartley & Company. Marketing grew fast. She hired aggressively, landed major accounts, got herself featured in business magazines. She was good at what she did, I'll give her that. But every new office lease, every executive hire, every glossy rebrand, it all traced back to Apex Strategies. She never asked about the details, never wanted to know how the money flowed, where it came from, or what strings were attached. She just spent it. Then came the distance. Late nights at the office. Business trips that stretched into long weekends. I didn't think much of it at first. Running a company is demanding. I know that better than anyone. But then I started noticing the way she looked at me, or rather, the way she stopped looking at me. Like I was furniture. Useful once, now just taking up space. 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator. Not because I'm paranoid, but because I'm careful. And careful men don't ignore patterns. Turns out, Diana had been seeing someone. One of her partners at the firm, a guy named Brendan Cross. Smooth talker, expensive suits, the kind of man who thinks a firm handshake makes him trustworthy. They'd been meeting at hotels, taking trips under the guise of client visits. The investigator gave me photos, timestamps, receipts, everything I needed. I didn't confront her. I didn't yell or throw things or demand answers. I just started planning. Because here's the thing about being a hedge fund manager. You learn to see moves before they happen. You anticipate. You position. And when the market shifts, you're already 3 steps ahead. So when Diana handed me that envelope at her grand opening, surrounded by her colleagues and her clients and her cameras, I wasn't surprised. I was ready. The rooftop venue was everything Diana wanted. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble bar, those ridiculous ice sculptures shaped like the company logo. 200 people milling around, sipping cocktails, pretending they cared about marketing trends. I stood near the edge, watching the city lights blur into the horizon, when she found me. "Stephen," Diana said, her voice smooth as silk. She was wearing that red dress, the one I'd watched her try on 3 times before settling on. Her smile was perfect. Practiced. "Can we talk for a minute?" I turned to face her. "Sure." She glanced around, making sure no one was close enough to hear, then reached into her clutch and pulled out a thin manila envelope. My name was written across the front in her handwriting. "I think it's time we were honest with each other," she said, handing it to me. "We've been going through the motions for too long. You know it, I know it. This is just making it official." I opened the envelope. Divorce papers. Standard California filing. Uncontested dissolution of marriage. She'd already signed her name at the bottom, neat and confident. There was even a pin tucked inside, a silver Mont Blanc I'd given her for her 40th birthday. "You want me to sign this here?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "At your party?" Diana's expression didn't change. "I thought it would be easier this way. Clean. We could tell people later, spin it however we need to. But I didn't want to drag this out. You understand, don't you?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in months, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just clarity. "Yeah," I said. "I understand." I pulled out the pen, clicked it open, and signed my name on the dotted line. No hesitation. Diana blinked, surprised. I think she expected a fight, maybe some tears, a speech about how we could work it out. But I just folded the papers, slid them back into the envelope, and handed it to her. "There you go," I said. "Congratulations on the opening, by the way. The place looks great." She stared at me, her smile faltering just slightly. That's it. I set my champagne glass on a nearby table, straightened my tie, and walked toward the elevator. Behind me, I heard someone call Diana's name, pulling her back into the crowd. The photographer snapped another picture, catching her mid-laugh, glowing under the lights. I pressed the button for the lobby and stepped inside. As the doors closed, I pulled out my phone and opened the secure app one used for wire transfers. 3 taps, 1 confirmation code, and the first withdrawal initiated. $25 million, moving out of Apex Strategies and into accounts Diana didn't even know existed. The elevator descended smoothly, and I felt lighter with every floor. By the time I reached the parking garage, I was already 3 steps ahead. I drove home in silence. No music, no phone calls, just the hum of the engine and the empty highway stretching ahead. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel anything except the quiet satisfaction of a plan unfolding exactly as designed. By the time I pulled into the driveway of our Palo Alto house, it was 11:53. I sat in the car for a moment, checking my phone. 3 withdrawal confirmations had come through. The first wave was complete. $25 million pulled from Apex Strategies, split across 4 offshore holding structures I'd set up 6 months ago. Clean, untraceable, irreversible. I walked inside. The house was dark. Jordan was probably still at the party, playing Loyal Son. Peyton was at school in Berkeley. Liam was in the basement. I could hear the faint strum of his guitar through the floorboards. I poured myself a scotch and sat in my office, laptop open. The secondary accounts were already processing. Marketing retainers, vendor contracts, office lease guarantees, all of it tied back to Apex. I'd built the funding structure with one feature Diana never bothered to learn about: a termination clause. If I pulled primary capital, everything downstream collapsed within 72 hours. At 12:04, my phone buzzed. "Diana." I let it ring. 12:07. Another call. I silenced it. 12:13. Again. By 12:30, she called 18 times. I opened my email and found 4 messages, each one more frantic than the last. The subject line said it all. "Call me now. What did you do? Stephen, please." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the document folder I prepared months ago. Bank statements showing every transfer from Apex to Hartley & Company. Marketing. Every invoice I'd paid. Every salary I'd funded. Every lease I'd guaranteed. The paper trail was immaculate. And at the bottom of the folder was a copy of our prenuptial agreement, the one Diana signed 23 years ago after a lawyer told her it was standard procedure. She'd skimmed it. I knew because I watched her do it, flipping through pages while on a phone call with a client, initialing sections without reading the fine print. Clause 9.2 was buried on page 11. It stated that in the event of marital dissolution initiated by either party, any business investments made during the marriage by one spouse would revert to the original investor upon formal separation. She owned Hartley & Company, marketing on paper, but I owned the money that built it, and now I was taking it back. At 1:15, I finally answered her call. "What the hell did you do?" Her voice was sharp, panicked, nothing like the smooth confidence from earlier. "I signed the papers," I said calmly. "Like you asked. The accounts, Stephen. The funding. Everything's frozen. What did you do?" "I exercised my contractual rights under our prenup. You should read legal documents before you sign them, Diana." I thought a marketing executive would know that. Silence. Then her voice faltered. You can't do this. The company will collapse. That's not my problem anymore, I said. You want a clean break. You got one. I hung up. The calls didn't stop. By 2 a.m, Diana had tried reaching me 338 times. Calls, texts, voicemails. I ignored all of them. At some point, she must have realized I wasn't going to answer because the messages shifted. Angry threats became desperate pleas. We can fix this became please, just talk to me. I didn't respond. At 6:45, Jordan came home. I heard his car pull into the driveway, heard him unlock the front door. He walked into the kitchen where I was making coffee, still wearing his suit from the party. Dad, he said, his voice tight. Mom's been calling me all night. She says you pulled the funding from the agency. She says you're trying to destroy her. I poured my coffee slowly, deliberately. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped paying for it. What's that supposed to mean? It means your mother wanted a divorce. I gave her one. She wanted independence. Now she has it. Jordan's face flushed. You're being petty. You're punishing her because she left you. I looked at him, my eldest son, the one who'd worked summers at Diana's agency since he was 20, the one who thought his mother was some kind of self-made genius. Sit down, I said. He didn't move. Sit down, Jordan. He pulled out a chair, jaw clenched. I opened my laptop and turned it toward him. Bank statements filled the screen. Transfer after transfer, millions of dollars flowing from Apex Strategies in a Hartley & Company. Marketing, salaries, office leases, vendor payments, all of it. Your mother didn't build that company, I said quietly. I did. She ran it. She landed clients. She made it look good. But every dollar that went into it came from me. And now that we're divorced, I'm taking my money back. Jordan stared at the screen. She didn't know. She didn't ask. He swallowed hard. What about the people who work there? What about the clients? Not my concern. Jesus, Dad. He stood up, shaking his head. You're really going to just let it all collapse? I gave her 23 years, I said. I funded her dream, raised her kids, stayed quiet while she built her empire. And last night, she handed me divorce papers at a party, like I was a business expense she didn't need anymore. So yes, Jordan, I'm letting it collapse. Because it was never hers to begin with. He left without another word. 3 days passed. Diana stopped calling. Instead, she hired a lawyer, some hotshot from San Francisco, who sent me a 20-page letter demanding immediate restoration of funding and threatening legal action for financial abuse and sabotage. I forwarded it to my attorney, a woman named Patricia Dunn who'd been handling my estate planning for 15 years. This is garbage, Patricia said over the phone. They don't have a case. The prenup is airtight, and you're well within your rights to withdraw your own capital. I know, I said, but I want to be thorough. Pull together everything we have. Bank records, funding agreements, the prenup. If they want to fight, let's make sure they lose. That afternoon, Liam knocked on my office door. My youngest son stood in the doorway, guitar case in one hand, phone in the other. He looked uncomfortable, the way he always did when forced to deal with family drama. Dad, Liam said quietly, can I show you something? I gestured for him to come in. He closed the door behind him, set down his guitar, and handed me his phone. On the screen was a text thread between Diana and someone named Brendan. I scrolled through the messages, my jaw tightening with each line. He signed the papers. Can you believe it? Didn't even fight. Told you he wouldn't. Guy's been checked out for years. I know. Still feels weird, though. You'll feel better once the lawyers sort out the money. Half of everything, right? More than half if I can prove he's been hiding assets. I looked up at Liam. Where did you get this? Mom left her iPad at the house last month, Liam said. It's still synced to her phone. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I just saw the notifications, and... He trailed off, looking down. I thought you should know. I scrolled further. The messages went back months. Diana and Brennan Cross, her business partner, talking about trips to Napa, dinners in the city, hotel rooms. And more recently, conversations about the divorce, about how much money she expected to take from me, about how she'd planned the whole thing down to the timing of the papers. How long have you known? I asked. A couple months, Liam admitted. I didn't know what to do. Jordan wouldn't believe me, and Peyton. He shook his head. She'd just say it's Mom's right to be happy or something. I handed the phone back. Can you send me screenshots of all of this? Liam nodded. Yeah, I already did. Check your email. Good man, I said. Thank you. He picked up his guitar case. Dad, are you okay? I looked at my 17-year-old son, this quiet kid who'd just handed me a nuclear weapon without being asked, and felt something shift. Pride, maybe. Or just gratitude. I'm fine, I said. Better than fine. After Liam left, I opened my email and downloaded every screenshot he'd sent. Then I forwarded the entire file to Patricia with a simple subject line, Discovery. She called me 20 minutes later. Stephen, this changes everything. If she was planning the divorce while still taking her money, we can argue fraud. Any affair with a business partner? That's a clear violation of fiduciary duty if he's on the company's payroll. Can we use it? We can bury her with it. By the end of the week, Hartley and Company. Marketing was hemorrhaging. 2 senior account managers quit. 3 major clients pulled their contracts, spooked by rumors of financial instability. Diana COO, a guy I'd met twice, sent out an internal memo trying to calm the staff, but it leaked to the press within hours. Business journals started running pieces. Hartley marketing faces funding crisis. Is the girl boss empire crumbling? Diana called me once during that time. I answered. You're enjoying this, she said. Her voice was flat, exhausted. Watching me lose everything. I'm not watching anything, I said. I'm just not paying for it anymore. Stephen, please. We can settle this. You don't have to destroy the company. I'm not destroying it, Diana. You are. You build a business on my money and convince yourself you did alone. That's on you. I work for this, she snapped, anger flaring. Every client, every campaign, every late night. That was me, not you. You worked with my funding, I corrected. There's a difference. She was quiet for a moment. Then, softer, almost breaking. What do you want? Money? The house? Just tell me what you want, and let's end this. I don't want anything from you, I said. I already have what's mine. I hung up. That night, Jordan came back to the house. He didn't say anything at first, just sat at the kitchen table while I made dinner. Finally, he spoke. Liam, show me the texts, Jordan said. I didn't respond, just kept chopping vegetables. Mom and Brendan, he continued. They've been together for a while. I know. You knew. Jordan's voice rose slightly. How long? For months. Maybe longer. He was silent for a minute. Then he said, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called you petty. I didn't know. I set down the knife and turned to face him. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. Jordan looked down at his hands. What happens now? Now, I said, we move forward. You figure out what kind of man you want to be. And your mother figures out what it's like to build something without someone else's money. He nodded slowly, then stood up. For what it's worth, Dad, I think I get it now. Good, I said. That's a start. 2 weeks after the party, I got a call from someone I didn't expect. Diana's father, Judge Howard Langford, retired from the California Superior Court 5 years ago. He'd always been cordial with me, if distant. We'd shared maybe a dozen real conversations in 23 years. Stephen, his voice was firm, measured. I need to speak with you. In person. We met at a coffee shop in downtown San Francisco, one of those quiet places where lawyers and bankers go to avoid attention. Howard arrived exactly on time, wearing a gray suit that looked like it cost more than most people's cars. He sat down across from me without ordering anything. I've reviewed the financial documents, Howard said, pulling a folder from his briefcase. Diana's attorney sent them to me, asked for my opinion. He slid the folder across the table. I told her she doesn't have a case. I opened the folder. It was Diana's legal strategy, demanding restoration of funds, claiming I'd engaged in financial coercion and sabotage. The arguments were weak, desperate. Your prenup is ironclad, Howard continued. And the funding agreements you signed with her company include clear termination clauses. Legally, she doesn't have a leg to stand on. He paused. But that's not why I'm here. Why are you here? I asked. Because I need you to understand something, Howard said, his voice dropping. I spent 30 years on the bench watching people lie to themselves. Diana's been lying to herself for a long time. She convinced herself she built that company alone, that you were just along for the ride. I tried to tell her otherwise, but she wouldn't listen. She never listened. You knew, I said, that you funded everything. Howard nodded. Of course I knew. I'm not blind, Stephen. But Diana is. Or she was. Now she's starting to see what she threw away, and it's breaking her. He leaned back. I'm not here to ask you to take her back. I'm here to tell you that whatever you're planning to do, you have my support. She made her choice. Now she lives with it. I wasn't sure what to say. After a moment, I just nodded. Thank you. Howard stood, buttoning his suit jacket. One more thing. That man she's been seeing, Brendan Cross. He's already distancing himself. Stopped returning her calls, according to my sources. Funny how loyalty works when the money dries up. He left, and I sat there with my coffee, processing what I'd just heard. Diana's own father had sided with me. Not out of spite, but out of principle. It was validation I didn't know I needed. That evening, Peyton came home from Berkeley. My daughter walked into the house with her usual confidence, dropped her bag by the door, and found me in the kitchen. Dad, Peyton said, arms crossed. We need to talk. About what? I asked, not looking up from the stove. About what you're doing to Mom. I turned off the burner and faced her. What am I doing to your mother, Peyton? You're punishing her, Peyton said. You're using your money to control her, to make her suffer because she wanted out of a marriage that wasn't working. Is that what she told you? She didn't have to tell me. I can see it. Peyton's voice rose. You're being a typical man, weaponizing your financial power because you can't handle rejection. I took a breath. Peyton, do you know how much money I put into your mother's company? That's not the point. $25 million, I said, over the course of 12 years. Every salary, every lease, every marketing campaign, all funded by me. Peyton faltered. She worked for that. She did. I agreed. But she worked with my money. And when she decided to divorce me, she forfeited the right to keep using it. That's not punishment. That's consequence. But the company was never hers. I said firmly. It was ours. Built with my capital, grown with my support. And now it's gone. Because she chose to end the partnership. Peyton stared at me, her certainty wavering. She said you were just bitter. I'm not bitter, I said. I'm done. There's a difference. She left without another word. But I saw the doubt in her eyes. The certainty she'd walked in with was gone. 3 days later, Diana tried something desperate. She filed a motion with the court claiming I'd hidden assets during our marriage, that I'd funneled money into offshore accounts to avoid fair division. Her lawyers submitted financial affidavits alleging I'd been systematically concealing wealth for years. Patricia called me immediately. She's fishing, my attorney said. She doesn't have proof. She's hoping the court will force you to open your books, and she'll find something. Will they? I asked. Not a chance. Your finances are clean. Everything's documented, taxed, legal. But we need to respond, and we need to make it hurt. I spent the next 2 days with Patricia and a forensic accountant, building our countermotion. We included every bank statement, every tax return, every investment record from the last 20 years. We showed exactly where every dollar came from and where it went. And then we included something else. The text messages between Diana and Brendan, discussing the divorce, the affair, the plan to take half of everything. We filed the countermotion on a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, Diana's attorney withdrew the hidden assets claim. But the damage was done. The text messages were now part of the public record. Business journals picked up the story within hours. Hartley Marketing founder's divorce gets ugly. Text messages reveal affair, financial plotting. Diana called me that night, her voice shaking. You had no right to make those texts public. They're evidence, I said calmly. You accused me of fraud. I proved you were the one planning to defraud me. This is going to destroy my reputation, Stephen. You destroyed your reputation when you handed me divorce papers while sleeping with your business partner, I said. I just documented it. She hung up. The following Monday, I got another unexpected call. This time from Brendan Cross himself. Mr. Hartley. His voice was tight, professional. I think we should talk. About what? I asked. About resolving this situation. Diana's company is struggling, and I think we can work out an arrangement that benefits everyone. I almost laughed. You mean an arrangement where I give back the money I pulled so you and Diana can keep playing house? Silence. Then, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset. I interrupted. And there's no arrangement. You and Diana made your choices. Now you get to live with them. Don't call me again. I hung up and blocked his number. That evening, Jordan came in my office. Dad, I quit the agency today. I looked up. Why? Because I can't work for someone who lied to me. Jordan said. Mom told me she built that company from nothing. But she didn't. You did. And I'm done pretending otherwise. What are you going to do? I asked. Figure it out, Jordan said. But I'm not doing it on her terms anymore. I nodded. Good man. For weeks after I signed those divorce papers, Diana's attorney requested a settlement conference. Patricia called me with the news, her tone cautiously optimistic. They want to negotiate, Patricia said. Diana is willing to accept a clean split if you agree to restore 10% of the original funding to keep the company afloat. No, I said immediately. Stephen, hear me out. 10% is nothing compared to what you pulled. It gives her a lifeline, closes the case quickly, and we avoid a protracted court battle. I don't care about avoiding court, I said. She made her choice. She lives with it. But something made me reconsider. Not mercy, not sympathy. Strategy. I called Patricia back an hour later. Set up the meeting, I said, but on my terms. I want Diana there in person. No lawyers in the room, just her and me. Patricia hesitated. That's highly unusual. Tell her if she wants any chance of saving her company, she meets with me. Alone. 2 days later, Diana walked into a conference room at Patricia's law office. She looked different. Thinner, older. The confidence that used to radiate from her had dimmed to something closer to desperation. She sat across from me, hands folded on the table. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Diana said quietly. I'm not agreeing to anything yet, I said. I'm listening. She took a breath. Stephen, I know I hurt you. I know I handled everything wrong. But the company, the people who work there, they don't deserve to lose everything because of my mistakes. Those people work for a company built on my money, I said. They were always at risk. They just didn't know it. I'm asking you for help, Diana said, and her voice faltered slightly. Not for me. For them. I leaned back in my chair. I'll make you an offer. One time, non-negotiable. Her eyes lit up with hope. Okay. You can keep 10% equity in the company, I said. You'll retain the title of founder, but you step down as CEO. The remaining 90% gets restructured under a new management team I approve. You'll receive a modest salary as a consultant, but you'll have no operational control. You'll also issue a public statement acknowledging that the company was built with my funding and that you're grateful for the opportunity one provided. Diana's face went pale. You want me to publicly admit that you didn't build it alone? I finished. Yes, that's the price. Your pride or your company. Choose. She stared at me, her jaw working. I could see the war happening behind her eyes. Pride versus survival. Image versus reality. And if I refuse? Diana asked. Then the company dies, I said. The lawsuits from creditors will bury what's left. You'll spend the next 5 years in litigation, and you'll lose everything anyway. At least this way, you get to keep a piece of what we built. She looked down at her hands. I need time to think. You have 24 hours, I said, standing. After that, the offer expires. I left her sitting there, alone in that conference room, finally understanding what it felt like to have no leverage. The next morning, Patricia called. She accepted. All terms. She'll issue the statement next week. I felt nothing. No victory, no satisfaction. Just closure. That evening, Peyton came home again. She found me in the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter. Mom called me, Peyton said. She told me about the settlement. And I asked. And I think I owe you an apology, Peyton said quietly. I called you controlling. I said you were punishing her. But you weren't. You were just protecting what was yours. I'm glad you see that, I said. I still don't agree with everything you did, Peyton continued. But I understand it now. And I'm sorry I didn't listen. I nodded. Thank you. She left, and I stood there in the quiet kitchen, realizing that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones you win. 8 months later, life looked different. The divorce was finalized. Diana kept her 10% stake in what was now called Langford Strategies Group, restructured under new leadership. She issued her public statement, a carefully worded acknowledgement that the company had been built through partnership and significant financial support. It wasn't groveling, but it was honest. The press covered it briefly, then moved on. Jordan started his own brand consulting firm, small but growing. He called me once a month, asking for advice but never for money. I respected that. Liam got accepted to Berklee College of Music. The kid who barely spoke at family dinners was suddenly thriving, writing songs and performing at local venues. He called me after his first paid gig, excited in a way I'd never heard before. Peyton graduated and took a job at a nonprofit focused on financial literacy for women. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, but she was good at it. She'd learned something from watching her mother's empire collapse. Knowledge matters more than ideology. As for me, I sold the Palo Alto house and bought a smaller place in Napa. Quiet, private, surrounded by vineyards. I still managed my hedge fund, but I worked less, traveled more. I started dating again. Nothing serious, just dinners and conversations with people who didn't know my history and didn't care about my money. One afternoon, I got a text from Diana. Just 3 words. "Thank you, Stephen." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I thought about those 23 years sometimes. About the man I'd been, the one who stayed quiet and funded someone else's dream while his own life became background noise. I didn't regret leaving. I didn't regret pulling the money. But I did learn something. Silence isn't strength. And supporting someone doesn't mean disappearing. Jordan called me one Sunday afternoon while I was sitting on my porch, watching the sunset paint the valley gold. "Dad," Jordan said, "I want to tell you something. I'm proud of you. For what you did. For standing up for yourself." "Thanks, son," I said. "I mean it," Jordan continued. "You taught me something important. About knowing your worth and not letting anyone take it from you." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, glass of wine in hand, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The foundation I'd built for Diana was gone, but the one I was building for myself, that one was solid. And this time, I was the only architect.